Hello, y'all. This is Minister Dominique Alexander, president and founder of the Next Generation Action Network. And right now we're doing a sit-down interview with some key individuals here in Dallas County in this unprecedented move that is currently going on here in the state of Texas, where your president, I don't know what to call him, but he did a call to the state of Texas to redistrict their congressional lines here in the state of Texas. And of course, Governor Greg Abbott adhered to it. In an unprecedented move, they called a special session. And right now we have 3 congressional districts that are currently under attack. That is Representative Jasmine Crockett, Congressional District 30, as well as Congressman Mark Vesey, Congressional District 33rd Congressional District, Representative Julie Johnson, the 32nd Congressional District, and in Houston area, Representative Al Green, the 9th district in the state of Texas, and Representative Sylvia Garcia, which served the 29th district, congressional district, and the congressional district that was represented by the late great legendary Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, and as well as Congressman Sylvester Turner. Of course, we are aware that they both died in office, and that seat has been left vacant because they are currently doing a special election. Of course, this move with this special called session has had Democrats having to rally across the country to ensure that they don't try to tip the balance of power in the new midterm election. So today, y'all, I have State Senator Royce West, who has been representing, and I'm gonna say a little joke, he's been representing as long as I've been living. So for almost 3 decades now, y'all has been here, has been involved, has been engaged, and of course is not new to this type of tactics here in the state of Texas. He represents, of course, the 23rd Senatorial District, my hood, my district, and then my friend Kardal Coleman, who is the Dallas County Democratic Party chair here, the first African-American to serve in that position in our county's party's history. And of course, I want to be able to make sure that people throughout Dallas County, throughout this country, are informed on how they can get involved, how they can stay engaged, y'all. And man, you know, I said, okay, well, if I'm gonna have this conversation, well, let me make sure I have it with the next generation in what they call your generations in the West?
Effective.
Oh, So y'all, we got to start something, but definitely, you know, Senator West, there's nothing new under the sun, right? Of course, these are some of the same tactics that you have had to deal with as a state senator. If people just want to know, first off, have this been done before here in the state of Texas? 2, why should people be concerned about this? What is different from the times that we say, oh, everybody need to be up in arms? What is different about this moment that we are living in 2025?
First of all, thank you very much for the invitation to be here with you and Kardal. When I think about where we are, this is not the first time this has happened. Back in 2003, there was a midterm redistricting in order to get additional congressional seats. During that time, Democrats in both the House and the Senate left. I had to leave home for some 45 days in order to try to stop redistricting then, but one of our members decided to come back, and that kind of threw everything into a tizzy, and they were able to get a quorum in order to start, and ultimately pass redistricting. We ended up going to the Supreme Court, and we lost the redistricting battle in the Supreme Court. Y'all, let me tell you, this is a 12-round fight. And don't get all, how should I say, disengaged or get your head down because we may lose one round of this fight. We learned from 2003 that you got to make sure you play the long game. And what is the long game? And I know we're going to get into this. The long game is making sure we stay focused and we stay involved. And we'll talk about being focused and involved a little later. Just Texas is ground zero for this fight, but we have other states that can do the same thing in order to make certain that Trump doesn't get his way, and that Hakeem Jeffries become the next majority leader of the United States Congress.
Kardal, tell me, given your leadership in Dallas County, explain the real life impacts on communities and congressional districts and unfairly drawn the partisan interests. What does it do for people here in Dallas County? Why is it so important for them to stand up against this and the real life impact that will go on, that they will feel?
So there's a couple things, right? So electorally, as party chair, it's our job to, as leader of the Democratic Party, it's our job to push people to the polls, to encourage them to go exercise their right to vote. So the first thing it does is it changes the map, it changes the boundaries and the lines. We see where Congresswoman Julie Johnson represents the majority of north of Dallas, starting 75, probably Greenville Avenue, going up Royal Forest, going all the way up north, but down to the proposed, all the way through Richardson, but the proposed boundaries now take her all the way to the Louisiana border, right?
Wow.
And so it's kind of strips that representation away. So when we talk about electing people and turn up, we've been hearing a lot this week, is cracking and packing. What does that mean?
Exactly.
Right? Packing people, communities of interest, communities of color, in specific districts to dilute their voting strength, or cracking those districts, right? To be able to separate them. So either you pack them in one area or you separate them. That's one of the things that we have to contend with. There's a lot of voter fatigue that we deal with, right? When we encourage people to vote, and people say, well, why does this even matter? So we have to deal with the cheating of drawing the lines and what they're really trying to do to manipulate the process. Beyond that, when you have a federal representative, you expect them to deliver legislatively for you, right? And to really deliver all the programs that we use day in and day out, whether that's Medicaid, Medicare, whether we're talking about student aid, FAFSA. We expect these programs to work for us.
Correct.
Not only that, I mean, if you have children or been one of the people who grew up in the Head Start program, these are all pivotal programs that could be cut and that could not be delivered for the people of Texas if our representation then changes.
And let me add to that. I think it's important that you recognize that some of these programs have been cut.
That's right.
Had we had control of the House, they would not have been cut, because Trump wouldn't have had basically robots in both the House and the Senate to do what he wants to do. That's why it's important for us, in order to get back to where we need to be in terms of representation, and making certain that these districts aren't cracked and packed. And I know we'll be talking about that in a few minutes.
And Senator West, like I thought about this when Kardal was talking about this. Like, there's a difference in representation for an urban community and a rural community, right?
That's exactly
and so you disenfranchise those rural people with urban issues that they don't have to deal with, right? You know what I mean? So I know that your district draws through Dallas County, like, and there is a such thing of a rural part of area of the 23rd, right? And they deal with different issues that we deal with here in Dallas. Can you explain to people, like?
Yeah. Right now, you take, let me make sure I just kind of give you the numbers. Congressional districts are probably 775,000 people, somewhere off in there. State Senate districts are 1 million people. That's right. The Senate district is larger than the congressional district. However, many of the issues are the same. And so you've got to I make sure that I represent the rural part of my senatorial district, and also, obviously, the majority of it's urban. And so I try to do that, and I've been effective so far. Same thing as it relates to congressional districts. But what's happening is, under Trump's map, you take Jasmine Crockett's district, they've taken out of pretty much all of downtown, which is the economic engine of Dallas. They've taken it out of her district and put it in, frankly, into a Republican congressional district. And so persons that have economic engines, economic development issues, won't be able to get the same type of response from Jasmine or Mark Vesey or Julie Johnson because they don't have direct access to the economic leaders of this particular area. And so the impact in Congress would be different if we don't have a leader Jeffries there to make certain that those issues are in fact addressed not only by the entire Congress, but also addressed by our leaders that would then have the ability to make certain they talk to those persons and make sure that they're sensitive to our issues. And so when you think about communities of interest,
Correct.
okay, you can't turn around and crack, you shouldn't be able to turn around and crack communities of interest. And that's exactly what's going on here. Some of those communities of interest are pretty much urban,
Yeah.
for the most part, and some of them are rural. But you've got to have a representative that has a track record, if you will, of addressing both urban and rural issues. And in many instances, these new districts don't take that into effect.
Senator West, Texas has historically been a testing ground for restrictive laws targeting civil rights, voter suppressions. Can you provide a context of how the latest redistricting efforts aligned with those previous attempts to marginalize communities of color and vulnerable populations?
This has been the most over-top attempt that I've seen in the years that you've allowed me to serve as your state senator. This one is the most aggressive of all. That's what I'm telling you, it's a 12-round fight. It's a fight. And all of us had better be involved in this. This is the civil rights issue of our generation. I mean, you go back to Martin Luther King and all of them. We have it better than they have it. But they stood up. Black, brown, Hispanic, everyone stood up. We've got to stand up this time, because if we allow this to go unchecked in Texas, you can be assured that it's going to happen across the country. I'm glad that my House members have gone to different states across this country, California, Illinois, others, and talked with the governors to ensure that if Texas succeeds in this, that they're going to do the same thing in their states. And why would they do that? Because of this particular assault on democracy that's being led by Trump. But he told you that he's thinking about running for a third term, even though it's not constitutional. It makes it a hell of a lot easier if he has full control of the House of Representatives and also the Senate to try to get that done. And so believe what he tells you. Believe what he tells you, because he's going to make sure that he attempts to do it unless we stop him. And we can stop him if we work together as a party to do it.
Kardal, what tactics has been most effective historically in mobilizing and educating voters about gerrymandering and voter suppression?
We can talk about tactics, but I'll tell you about organizations and we'll get to tactics.
Yeah.
Most effective that come to mind, man, is the faith community, specifically the Black church, and people of faith across all spectrums. We talk about civil rights movement and how Dr. King asked for white people of goodwill and good people of all faiths to stand on the front lines when things really got heated in the civil rights movement. I think those tactics of organizing through the faith-based community are still very effective, and we have to get back to that. We have to really challenge ourselves at our core and look at who we are, but then also use those sacred spaces as organizing spaces and places to have conversations about what's going on. Right now, we talk about some of the tactics that were effective. You're from the school of nonviolent social change, but when you look at civil disobedience, right?
Yeah.
Even a Gen Z brother out of Houston, Isaiah Martin, who went viral, is going all around the country about him being thrown out of the state capitol and been thrown in jail for going over his time as he was testifying. You know, that was what we were seeing in real time. He pulled one of those old tactics, old tools, and began to resist and to demand. And awareness was made around the country because of one of those tactics that he was able to use. And so I think we have to use every tool within our tool belt to be able to fight back and push back against this. But then we also have to organize within communities that have historically been safe for us to do that in.
So basically, we need to just go back to our roots, foundation.
Go back to it.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure that they heard the younger generation say that, you know, just in case Senator West want to talk about us later. You know what I mean? Asked us where we at. Asked us where we at.
In that conversation, you talk about tactics. You know, I've been hearing this slogan, fight fire with fire. And some folks disagree on, you know, should Texas really be pushing the issue right now? Should the governors of the other states be really, you know, threatening to do this? And this is where we are. The landscape has changed. The rules of engagement have changed.
Correct.
And so we have to use those same tactics and organizing spaces, but we have to be a little bit wiser about how we engage in this moment.
Correct.
And you got to understand that they have the bully pulpit right now.
Right.
Yeah, they do.
Okay? And so we need to continue to evolve. We need
Correct.
to continue to meet. We need to continue to change our tactics as necessary.
Correct.
Again, it's a 10-round fight, y'all. Don't be disillusioned because we may end up losing one round of this fight. We're going to win the whole deal if we stay together and that we continue to change. I think this apparatus that we're using now, social media, is going to be very important.
Yeah.
Get the message out.
Correct.
Make sure you can see what's happening in Texas.
Correct.
And see what we're planning and working with other states to do in order to deal with this racial gerrymandering. We must stop Trump's attempt to take over the congressional delegation in the state of Texas and throughout this country.
Senator West, it looked like you was about to say something else, but
I wasn't about to say.
you had to hold yourself. It seems like it be making in those moments. You know, I always tell people all the time, as I travel across the country, I always have to remind people when we talk about black issues and they talk about black power.
This is not just a black issue.
But
let me be clear. We cannot. Texas has more black people. You've heard me say this over
Correct.
and over again. More black people than any other state in this country.
Correct.
But this is not just
A black issue. No,
and we've
not at all.
got to have a coalition. Let me just say this, that I have an opportunity. I'm interested in African Americans having a seat at the table of power.
Correct.
But I'm more interested in making certain that people who are at the seat of power, at the table of power, have my interests at heart.
Correct. Correct.
Okay? You understand
Correct.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, as an example, Clarence Thomas and I, we had the same skin pigmentation. I have nothing in common with that man at all because
Correct.
of his policies.
Yeah.
So we've got to make sure we develop a coalition.
Correct.
And make sure we work the coalition. Understand that our Latino brothers and sisters, they want a seat at the table. Our Asian brothers and sisters, our Anglo brothers and sisters, all want a seat at the table. And we need to be supporting those individuals
To do that, yeah.
to do that.
Correct. And that's what I was alluding to, right? The reality is when I travel across the country and people talk about, you know, black people and where they are, and I hear all the conversations about Georgia, Alabama, and California, and I have to remind people all the time that most black people are in the state of Texas, right? And in the districts that we are seeing being attacked are some of the districts that literally represent some of the most largest black population here in the state of Texas, right? And of course, at the end of the day, this is, of course, an issue that is hitting all different race, colors, and creeds, right? Because of course, Dallas, Houston is a very diverse community. Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex is a very diverse community. We have people from all different backgrounds, shapes, educations, all these people, because of the corporate industrial complex that is here and everything, or whatever, we have people of all different sizes and different backgrounds. So I always try to educate people that, but I do understand that we have to have a real coalition on how we address these things. You talked about this earlier, Senator West, about previous quorum breaks, right? I know I was around in the 2021. I wasn't around when y'all did the quorum break to New Mexico.
Where were you?
Oh man, you know, listen, me and Kardal was like, I don't know if we was the armor bearer or something. 2021, I still got goosebumps, right? Like literally for 2021, I was never at home for a whole month. I don't know how many times I saw Austin, Texas. It was rough, like every day we talking about, we on the road. And then when we went to DC, and I always tell people all the time, man, when they do these quorum breaks, it's incumbent upon us and important for us to support them, for them to see their constituents come with them. So I always tell people, if I say anything on this live stream, I hope that wherever our legislatures do go, if that is a tactic that they are going to do, right? Of course, I'm not even going to talk about that or whatever, but if that's a tactic they're going to do, it's important that they see their constituents standing with them wherever they go. Now, I know everybody can't do that or whatever, but it was very important, and I know that it helped those state legislatures in 2021 because my representative, State Senator Tony Rose, said it did, seeing her constituents, because at the end of the day, they are away from their home, right? And it's easy for somebody to sit here and say, oh, y'all just need the quorum break, y'all just need the this and that and the third, but literally you are, it's not that easy, y'all. They are literally sitting in another unknown city for 6 months during legislative season, and then they are literally having to stay at hotels and not knowing the uncertainty. So it's not as, I've been seeing a lot online, and I always reply to them and say, it's not that easy, right, to do that or to.
Let me add this. The narrative.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back to 2003. The Republican Party put out a narrative that we were running.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And that they need to go back to work and quit running. Don't allow them to indoctrinate you with that narrative. The fact is, we're using parliamentary procedure in order to try to stop them or slow them down from doing the thing that they're attempting to do. And that's perfectly legitimate in terms of parliamentary procedure. And so you're right. And understand this, when we leave, we've been in session this year for 140 days, which is the regular session. We make $600 a month. Let that sink in. $600 a month. And we're okay with that. And so when we leave and have to do a quorum break, many people are having to continue not to go to work and not to be able to subsidize the $600 a month gross that we get. And we're okay with that. But we need you with us to make certain you understand the importance of what we're giving up and why we're giving it up. And we're giving it up for you to make sure we have representation and that the people that are in Congress, in the state legislature, have your back in terms of issues that are important to you.
Yeah, and it's important that people understand that context, right? Because, you know, being there in DC, it was like, I'm so ready to go home, and I understand, and just having to travel, having to keep that infrastructure going of being able to sustain staying there and going about. And I always tell people all the time, you know, that criticism, why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? Right now, we are living in some unknown times, and they're using every unprecedented tactic to stay in power. And our legislatures have to do everything that they can to stay in power as well, or whatever, to make sure that we can just push a strong narrative in showing people that this is the reason why we need you to get out and vote.
Think about South Africa.
Yeah.
That's what they're attempting to do. The minority is attempting to continue to oversee and overpower the majority.
Yeah.
Just look at the history of South Africa. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Kardal, how can communities support the legislatures who are taking bold steps to do this quorum break, and why is it important to maintain solidarity during these critical moments? Kind of like what we just kind of alluded to, but tell us from a county party perspective, because I know y'all have to do real rapid response to it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that you and your organization are great at is rapid action, rapid response. And I think that the Democrats as a whole, not just our county party, state party, national party, could be a bit better at that. And this is the moment where we're really going to have to be tested, right? We know what to expect. We've seen this movie before,
right?
And so we know what's coming up. So from the county party perspective, we launched something that's called a Fair Maps Fund, which is an organizing fund, Senator, that allows us to do rapid communication, rapid organizing, put people on the ground. That we launched that just last week, and it's already turning out pretty good for us. So we're making ourselves a very nimble, swift organizing machine and rapid communications response machine to be able to respond to this moment. But beyond that, one thing that I like, we're asking all people in our county to participate and follow and share online, and even give to the fund. But I've seen content creators from around the state and from
Yeah.
around the country start to fly to Texas, get here however they could, and cover this story. That's what it's going to take for everybody to amplify and start to shine a light on this thing. Man, I ran into people in the Capitol yesterday that I've been following online for years, and they're just making their way to Texas all across the country.
Right.
Black, white, brown, and different content creators, and telling the story about what's happening in Texas. And it's going to take that from our generation.
And making people understand that live in Maine, that live in California, that live in Illinois or Florida or Georgia, to know that if they are able to pick five more new seats, that might balance the power that affects you in your community. So this is not just a Texas issue, right? This is actually an American issue that, you know, most people looking at it like, oh, that's Texas. No, you know what I mean? It's, what is it? How many U.S. House of Representatives in the U.S. House? I don't know what.
456, I believe.
456, whatever it may be. There are only a few seats. I think, what are there, 7 seats above?
It's like three. It's a 3-seat difference, I believe, at this point.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
And they Republicans have said they're going to go to Ohio,
Yeah.
Florida,
Correct.
and some of these other states in order to try to get additional seats. Now, do you blame them? I don't blame them at all. If they have the political power to do it.
Right.
What I would do, I'll blame us if we don't fight back.
Correct.
To keep them from doing it.
And one of the reasons is because they know that some of the policies and some of the laws that they have passed since being here, like gutting, like you said earlier, Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP benefits, and all those things, that people are going to remember that in the ballot box. And how can we be able to balance that power to ensure that we hold on to the power that's there? Senator West, besides voting, what are other civic actions can constituents take to safeguard democracy and ensure fair representation?
I recommend we do the following. Let me start with Texas first. We've got to make certain that we can continue to party on Friday and Saturday nights. You can keep on doing that. But you got to understand that you have an obligation to make certain that our democracy is still intact. We've forgotten that. You know, people believe that when Barack Obama was elected that everything's okay. And you notice it's not okay. You remember what we did when George Floyd was killed. Many of us came out to the streets. We went down to the police departments.
Sure did.
Yeah, we
Sure
organized.
did.
We organized and stayed involved. And it shouldn't just be kind of a one-off for you. You need to be involved. You need to make certain that $10 or $15 that you spend on those drinks, each and every time you get a drink, at least one of them, you should make certain that you take that money and send it to an organization that's got your back, like the Democratic Party, like the
Next Generation Action Network.
You need to do that. Organizations such as that. If you can't come to Austin, if you can't come to DC, listen, look at social media and see what we're asking you to do. Like here in Austin next week is going to be the week that the House of Representatives decides to vote on this. You should be calling Republicans. You don't have to call me. You know where I am on the issue. You don't have to call Democrats. You know where the Democrats are going to be on this issue. You need to be calling Republicans on a consistent basis and telling them that you are asking them to vote against this. Now, will it make a difference? I don't know. It may not make a difference in this round, but you can be assured that ultimately it will in fact make a difference. So providing resources is important, making certain that you take actions like calling. If you can come to Austin and be a part of a demonstration, come to Austin, be a part of a demonstration. Use social media, do those things, and you can help us out. There may very well be others, activities that you engage in, help to mobilize against this unprecedented attempt to take additional power.
Correct. And like Senator West said, it's important that you stay engaged with the organizations that are on the front line, because a lot of times the representatives are not at home, they're not in their district office, their staffs are supporting them in different ways. And I remember in 2021, a lot of our organizations were pretty much, a lot of times, the communications for a lot of the legislatures, because they were, on the go and having to be in meetings doing different things. So a lot of that infrastructure towards communication and what was going on was being, put out by a lot of different organizations.
And let me say this. Sometimes we couldn't even get our message out. Okay? Because the mainstream media wasn't paying any attention to us.
Correct.
And we had to use our community, communications and media in order to get the word out to you.
Yeah. If they were doing a half, putting whatever their story or their spin on it, and keeping going. Kardal, I hear this all the time, and I know Senator West probably gonna want to chime into this. For people that's like, hey man, I ain't with all that politics, man. I'm after business and all that type of stuff or whatever. And I know Senator West said this the other day or whatever, but I get hit with this so much, like as if people don't even understand that Project 2025 is real, right? In the tactics of it, like I always tell people all the time, you don't gotta believe anything come out of my mouth. I've been doing this for about 11 years now, and I'm to that point, Kardal, where I'm like, oh wait, I ain't finna force to make you believe.
Right.
Just sit there and wait a little bit. You gonna realize, because there is enough out here to educate you outside of just taking for what you hear out of my mouth. It's enough documentation. Project 2025 is a real document, and it has real things. It's not just about Trump. That's a manuscript it's not new under the sun. It's the same tactics they've been doing for years, right? And so for these people that say, oh man, I ain't on that politics stuff and I'm on the business stuff or whatever, and what do you say to that, man? Tell me.
A good friend of mine told me that politics is a contact sport. So you better keep your head on the swivel. But beyond that, we also hear that if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu.
Yeah.
Right? You got to be engaged in the process. There's no such thing as, I'm focused on business, I'm not engaged in politics. It's all one and the same. Mm-hmm. And so there's no way to differentiate the two. One of the most beautiful things that I saw this week was these content creators coming down to the state capitol, and it wasn't just political content creators. Right. It was folks who do lifestyle and beauty tips, right? Because this is going to affect your lifestyle one way or the other.
I better believe it.
So that's what I'm looking forward to is seeing more people who are not just within the political apparatus, but this is going to affect all of us.
Correct.
So seeing everybody really pay attention to what's happening. I have family members who live in California that are sending me DMs on Instagram of like, look what I'm seeing is happening in Texas. So it's getting out there, and we need more people to share and be a part of the conversation.
And if all those people sit there and say, I'm not into politics and all that stuff,
yeah.
You need to remember that business is politics, and politics is business. Let me say that again. Business is politics, and politics is business. Without one, you're going to have the other. Think about this. When you go and try to get contracts, or when you're working and trying to get a promotion, and there's politics in trying to get that promotion. So you need to understand that business is politics, and politics is business.
And Senator West, I know you've been around a long time, so you understand the layers of what it means when Republicans attack this thing, these three-letter words, DEI, right? And I always try to explain, one of the things I learned in high school was our government is created on a trickle-down effect, right? And so when you have corporate companies, even governmental entities, rolling back on DEI, these corporate companies, who they interact with, the logistics contracts, the products that come into their business, all of those things are done on a matrix to make sure that all different race, colors, and creeds have a equal share of the pie, basically, right? And the reality is, of course, we know that our government, or people would say our government hadn't really met that benchmark, but now we're rolling back on so much stuff that our ancestors and people fought so very hard for, right? And so when we see all these different things, what do you say to people that just feel like, oh, I'm just disconnected and I'm just not going to get involved?
Well, what I say to you is that I want you to kind of go back to Southlake, Texas, where there was an issue concerning what curriculum was going to be taught in that school district and how students were going to be treated. And then you heard all the stuff about CRT, critical race theory. It started right there in Southlake, right here in Texas. And it ended up being a mobilization by conservatives, I'll just put it that way, that ended up catching fire across the country. And now you ended up seeing that certain things should not be taught in school. The history of the Civil War and how that should in fact be presented so people wouldn't feel guilty. Come on now. DEI. You've seen an unprecedented assault on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Where did it start? Right here in Texas, where persons stood up and said that we shouldn't have diversity, equity, and inclusion. When corporations decided to have those types of programs, and now they're being dismantled as we speak, and persons in those departments being terminated or reassigned. Again, business is politics and politics is business. And the reason businesses are doing that, my friends, is because in many instances, those businesses are under government regulations, and the government ends up having the ability to be onerous in the implementation and application of those regulations that will, listen to me now, impact the profit centers of those businesses. And to the extent that they adversely impact the profit centers, it impacts the shareholders that the corporations are responsible to. So therefore, they end up having to kind of roll back those types of programs because they do not want the government to adversely impact their profitability. That's the real deal.
Kardal, so to that new person that has never been involved in politics, seeing all this stuff, seeing what's went on in the new Trump administration in the last 6 months, and really ain't never got engaged in this whole spectrum, but they just know this ain't right, you know? Yeah. What do you say to these people and how they can really get involved right now?
Yeah, at the top of this, Senator West called his generation effective.
Yeah.
And I would hope, and they are.
I don't want.
Y'all fought this thing before.
Oh yeah.
Listen.
Right? And so now we see it all working to be undone.
Walk carefully, Kardal, because I don't want his generation on me later on Facebook, because I'm telling you, his generation is like warriors on Facebook. You know what I mean? Ooh, gladiators.
Look, no, I mean, they've been effective at being able to fight this once, right? And so it's on us, right? Millennials, Gen Z, even in Gen X, right? To really step up. This is our moment to face what they face, right? And to face it head on. Luckily, we have the wisdom, right, and the historical knowledge of how to go about this. So I think for anybody who's looking to get in the fight, who feels something, you don't know what quite to do with that, you see something online, you can do something as simple as sharing it. But this is our moment. And I've said this the other day specifically to millennials and Gen Z. For anybody who said, you know, I'm not my ancestors. If I were there then, I would have done this. If I was in the civil rights movement, this is how I would have showed up. This is your time to show up. This is our civil rights moment of our lifetime, of our decade. And so how we show up specifically for those who live in Texas and for those who are not in Texas, we welcome you to come fight with us. Right? If you have the time and the capacity to show up, we'll welcome you and join arms with you to fight this together. But it's going to take all of us. And so that's my call to everybody who's looking to get involved and want to be involved. You can start by the smallest thing is raising awareness. These legislators need help with amplifying the message and raising awareness. So start with sharing things online, but then also make sure if there's some sort of fund that you see online, give your resources, give your dollars to it, because it's going to take everything that we have to defeat this Trumpism in Texas.
So lastly, Senator West, I know that, you know, some of the only thing that we've been able to see somewhat relief, and I mean slim somewhat, right, is through our judicial process, right? And of course, I know you've been a lawyer for years, and of course, what is the judicial recourse that we have right now if the Republicans get their way?
Well, the reality is that historically, it's been the judiciary that has provided us the relief that we need because of the brazen attacks of conservatives, be they Democrats or Republicans, frankly. And so we have got to depend upon the judiciary. And ultimately, I mean, we know we have a pretty conservative judiciary right now, but there is some, I guess you could say, there is some light at the end of the tunnel. And so we've got to make certain we continue to money. We've got to support the Legal Defense Fund, okay? We've got to, of course, support the NAACP Legal Defense Fund and other organizations that are providing the, I guess you could say, the legal work necessary to get our cases in front of it. There'll be attacks on other states that will attempt to do redistricting. And so we've got to support those other states, the attorneys in those other states, as they go through the judiciary process. Right. This particular issue will be resolved one of two ways: by the judiciary or by you doing what the hell you're supposed to do, getting out and vote. If we change the power structure, and the way we change the power structure in this country is doing what? We vote. If we do what we need to do as a coalition, this ain't just about black folks, y'all. It's about all of us. We've got to develop those coalitions, get people out to vote, and we've got to support our judicial activism by contributing to it and making certain that those lawyers that are in those courtrooms, the women and men that will be in those courtrooms know that we got their back.
Kardal, any final words?
I appreciate you for having us on. I think that this is important. This is it, man. This is, like you said, in 2021, that was a different fight. The stakes are higher this time. Democracy is truly on the line. This idea of a third term,
right?
All these constitutional attacks, but even in the legislature with the penalties now on the legislature, the fines for breaking quorum, trying to rewrite the rules. Everything is more intense this time. And I would hope that people will understand the urgency of what's happening. Those who are in Dallas County watching this, across the state of Texas, those who are watching around the country will understand the urgency of what's happening in Texas and really get in the fight with us.
Senator Royce?
I want you to remember what happened in Tennessee. And John said, well, what happened in Tennessee? Remember, there were 2 African-American legislators that were expelled in Tennessee because they took a stand. I wouldn't put that beyond the Republicans here in Texas from doing the same thing. And luckily their constituents voted them back in, all right? We're gonna be standing up for you because that's what we signed up to do, to make sure we represent your interests. And given the fact that we're down there 24/7, knowing the games that are being played, recognizing that business is politics and politics is business, we're urging you to get involved in this particular fight. Because if you don't get involved in it, you don't have anything to complain about, other than you're sitting on the sidelines doing nothing. If you get involved in it, you can help us win this fight. And we will win this fight. It's just gonna take 12 rounds to get it done. And yes, it may very well end up being a decision, but the decision is gonna be that we win.
Man, thank y'all for taking this time with us today. And of course, it's important that we as an organization to keep people informed, engaged. And I just wanted to make sure that I talk to people directly to make sure that they understand exactly the moment that is currently going on right now. This moment right now is a moment for us to show our real empowerment. Make sure they seeing me, Jeremy, right now, right? This is our moment. A lot of people see us, and a lot of us that's on the front lines right now, whether we are fighting against what's going on to our undocumented community, whether we are fighting against DEI, all of these different vulnerable communities that are currently under attack, from education, from direct things that affect our communities right now. Hate is on the rise, so many different things. And I want people to understand that just being on social media and not being involved, not supporting right now, what we can learn from our ancestors and the people of the civil rights movement is consistency. I always tell people all the time why things don't get done all the way is because we lack consistency in this generation. And it's important that we keep that consistency. The civil rights movement was not a movement overnight. This was a decade movement, a movement that yet brought so many different things that we can now afford all of the greatest things in 2025, right? We go in our big houses, we go in our new 2025 cars, but you don't realize on the backs of their sacrifice what allows you the affordability to be able to do that. I remember my grandmother, my mom had me at 13 years old, and my grandmother was born in 1926. And in 1955, right there on the corner of Overton and Maryland, she was able to buy a home. But that home wasn't financed by a mortgage lender. That home was financed by her savings, right? And they wasn't afforded a credit card or a mortgage loan that was going to give them this house that we are afforded right now. That's on their sacrifice. That's on their blood that we are afforded these things that we have now. And now that we got it, we got to do it more than they did it, right? We have to stand on their shoulders, their strength. Yeah, we can make it through, but we're only going to make it through when we stand together and say enough is enough, and we ain't going back. We're not going to allow the life of Fannie Lou Hamer or Dr. Martin Luther King to go in vain. We're going to stand on their shoulders. We're going to stand on their legacy, and we're not going to allow anybody to say that yet our history is yet up for discussion. Minister Dominique Alexander, I want to thank y'all for listening to us today. And guess what? When we put that call to action to go out wherever our legislatures do, or whatever partner we have, from the Dallas County Democratic Party, Move Texas, so many different organizations that do a lot of work around our organizers. We need you. We need to see you. See you later.